you know, all kinds of stuff could happen.
Dogs after this, so I'll walk that way and see if they're still there, and then if they still are, I'll post it right after lunchtime.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
Also, great job on getting those potholes on the bike trail fixed.
Yeah, that was really Jeff. So he really, that was pretty quick. I was surprised to see that.
That was fast. I mean, all the neighbors were impressed too. They were pretty large. I don't know if you saw the pictures of them. They were pretty big potholes.
Well, I was out there a few weeks ago walking, and I had texted Craig from County Parks, but they're not in the office. And I told him, he said, he was on our trail, and he said, yeah, it was pretty good. People were behaving themselves. And I said, hey, speaking of trails, I said, I was on yours section.
Well, why don't we
get
started, if that's okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, cool. So bang, bang, bang. I'm hitting my gavel. Let's call this meeting to order. Why don't we start with the Pledge of Allegiance? Maybe we could all do it sitting down because no one wants to see that I'm wearing, a tutu or something below the screen. That's okay with everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
There we go. Awesome. All right, let's jump to, I'm sorry, I'm looking back and forth between seeing you guys and then.
I'm going to do roll call.
Oh, yes. Kristen, if you would.
Brad Bassick.
Here.
Tom Malinowski.
Here.
Ed Repay.
Here.
Joe Skvarek.
Here.
John Novosich.
Here.
Alfredo Estrada.
Here.
And Robin Arvanitis.
Did you do Tom?
All right. Sounds like everyone's here. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the March 4th, 2020 Park Board meeting.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Town of Schererville Park Board meeting for March 4th, 2020.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kristen, will you please call roll for the vote?
Brad Bassick.
Aye.
Tom Malinowski.
Aye.
Ed Repay.
Yep.
Joe Skvarek.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it.
I'm sorry, was
4-0.
that supposed to be aye or a nay?
You have to be different, Ed. I know.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Next item on the agenda is approval of donations. John, do you want to? Looks like we've got 6 donations this past month. John, do you want to walk us through them?
Yeah, these are all donations for the Tebow Nature Park in memory of Richard Tebow. We had a few come in right after our last park board meeting.
And then what's the total amount, John?
The full amount of the donations is $1,100.
Great. All right. I'll take a motion at the pleasure of the board.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve all donations made.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second. Okay.
All right. We have a motion and 2 seconds. Kristen, will you call roll for the vote?
Brad Bassick.
Aye.
Tom Malinowski.
Aye.
Ed Repay.
Aye.
Joe Skvarek.
Aye.
All right. The ayes have it 4-0. John, any correspondence?
None.
Okay. Any reports from staff?
Well, to bring you up to date, we've canceled a lot of activities through May 15th. Room rentals have been canceled through May 15th as well. So we've processed a lot of refunds since our last park board meeting. We still have some events obviously coming up in May that we need to make decisions on by the end of the month. We had targeted May 1st as the next date for us to take a hard look at the festival and see what we're gonna do with that event, as well as some of the other parties in the park. So just keeping up with that. Room rentals and shelter rentals, it's really going to depend on the guidance that we are anticipating coming out this week, and how far we're going to have to lock out dates for shelter rentals, for example, or room rentals. Right now, we were just focusing through the end of May. That may have to be extended. We do have something different this year where our maintenance staff will be responsible for mowing all the parks, as well as some public works areas, and public works will be assisting in mowing some of their areas as well as the parks. We split up different parts of town. So if you see our crews out mowing, we started that this week. We almost need to have a blade on the grass on the lawnmower as we're mowing through snow, but we are doing that. And so we're busy still with projects. Gorman Parks had the fence contractor out there. They're out there working today, actually putting in sleeves for the foul poles. They put the dugout roofs on. They still have some additional work with some fencing and then the gates. Thomas Irrigation's been out there this week. They still have to finish up. They probably have the most work to do out of any contractor. The infield sports fields were out last week and pretty much got the fields graded, and the bases and home plate set, and the base bounce set, and the pitching rubbers. And
out. Is anyone else losing him?
Can you hear me?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the infields look really really good. They just have to come back and do some touch-up work around the outfield edges. So we're anticipating that a lot of this work could get finished by the end of the month, and then we could start looking at restoration of the turf areas and final grading and putting the finishing touches on the complex. The Pennsy Trail, the railroad's still on schedule to start mid-May to late May with the signal work and the rest of the improvements. There's some other work that has to be done as far as marking of the trails and some signage. So that work should pick up next month. And as far as the Phase 4 section, they're still doing survey work. And they're going to be doing some wetland delineation work coming up here as the vegetation starts growing. So once that happens, Trish will start on a preliminary design, and look at the route of how we're going to, put the trail along that section. So still in Saratoga Park too, they've taken the old playground equipment out. The new equipment's supposed to be delivered next week to the contractor. So that project's on schedule. So that's about it for the projects.
When will that, John, I had emailed you about that. I just was curious, when will that project be finished?
The Saratoga?
Yeah.
It should be finished in June, sometime in June.
Okay.
So they're on schedule.
Great.
Any questions?
John, this is Joe. Two questions. One is, I noticed Monday at Plum Creek, our own people were mowing. Is that a result of kind of the virus, or more we found it better to do it in-house?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me dig a little deeper into that. We had last few years, we've sent that out for bid along with any other areas that Public Works and the treatment plant needs mowed. And the original bid came in from one contractor. that was very high. The costs have went up, you know, over 30% from the previous year. And we rebid it and opened up those a couple weeks ago. And although there was lower cost per week for, say, cutting the parks, the overall bid for the other areas in town came out higher. And regardless of what the bids were, they were all at least 25-30% higher than what we had paid last year. And when you look back from 2018, the costs have you know, more than doubled if we would have accepted the bids this year. So the recommendation to the council last week was not to award the mowing, and we put it back in house. So that was the main reason for doing it. And as well as, you know, looking at saving costs, we know there's probably going to be, you know, some decrease in revenue in the tax funds, which is being anticipated as well. So,
Okay. Well,
we fortunately still had, you know, we still have 4 mowers and we still have the equipment.
okay.
So,
Yeah, whoever was out here Monday and Tuesday did a great job.
okay, thank you. I'll pass that along. That's the public works. So basically they kind of looked at the snow routes, and that part of town public works will be doing, you know, mainly west of 41 in some areas, and we're going to be doing the parks and lift stations and detention areas that would be east of, you know, basically that 41 Austin Avenue.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, as I walk through Plum Creek, you know, I know the path's not open, the walking path, but obviously when the weather's good, there's quite a bit of people on there. Is Plum Creek a part of Saratoga? I mean, what's delaying us to being officially open? The Plum Creek part
of the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole trail is one or both phases 2 and 3 of that trail. You know, it's part of the same project. So, you know, there needs to be the hawk signal needs to be activated on Main Street. So there's not proper signaling on that section of Plum Creek. And although technically that phase stops before it gets to the rail tracks, it's still, you know, connected in a sense. And we want to make sure that the whole project's completed before the contractor, you know, turns it over and it officially becomes our responsibility. So at this point, without having the railroad crossing and the all the other traffic signals in, you know, there's no sense for us to open it and take on that risk.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
John, I wanted to ask real quickly. I know my family really loved it when Josh did that drive-by character event. I don't know, and I also know they were doing like a bunny through the different communities. And the feedback on that seemed really good. So one, I wanted to compliment Josh just at this meeting and thinking out of the box and doing things that, you know, families can participate. I don't know if we have the ability to continue doing stuff like that, but whatever we can do, I think would be awesome. And I would be in full support of. I did hear that when they were driving the east through the neighborhoods, that they, for whatever reason, they posted something on Facebook about, you know, how they had to stop doing it. And I was just curious why that was, if you knew anything about that.
Yeah, that started from an idea Josh had to drive around. It was one afternoon. It was kind of nice and put the costume on and drive around the parks. And then say, hey, let's, you know, kind of look at how we could get, you know, different neighborhoods involved, and maybe people request, you know, come through our subdivision on Facebook. So they did again the following day. But the original intent, from when I was told, was they were going to just drive around slowly through the subdivisions and wave. And then they started stopping for photos. And then people were getting close to the, you know, to the van for photos, and with the social distancing and some of that coming out, you know, that got put on Facebook, and, you know, really it kind of, you know, put a damper to the program, because, you know, they shouldn't really be stopping for photos and having, you know, encouraging people to get close, or, and we just thought that it's kind of hard to control the public, how they will react to it. You know, if there's a group of people in the subdivision that come out together and we create a crowd, we didn't want to do that. We had two more.
Was there like a complaint? Was there a formal complaint, or?
There was something posted on Facebook, and we had 2 more afternoon sessions. And at that point, there's also a decree for, pretty much just saying for essential travel. And, we did it for 2 afternoons. They did 6 hours of, driving around with the bunny. So, how much more do we do with this? And again, is it really essential travel for us to have, driving around the park van with a bunny? So how much do we continue?
For my daughter,
No, I think it was great. It's just, I think the timing of it, if we would have done it a little bit closer, right before Easter, and not stop and allow for photos, or to make sure there wasn't any possibility that someone could get closer to the characters or the van and that. So it kind of at that point we just halted the program. But he's still doing a great job. Him and Joyce did some virtual programming, and they're still doing some stuff online. So
please give them my compliments. My family has really enjoyed
that. Brad, I'll echo those comments. The character drive-by was not only thinking outside the box, but it was one of the original activities in the area that I could tell that used our situation, and compliments to John, Josh, Kristen, Irene, everybody at the
absolutely
at the Parks and Recs department. It's between the drive-by, the Easter Bunny. I believe Joyce is the one reading online on Facebook. And then I will not forget the Hokey Pokey, which all seem very comical, and it's a good laugh for everyone. And I appreciate dearly the comic relief, because it is a serious situation. And again, compliments to Josh, John, you also, and Kristen, and everybody at the Parks and Recs department. I couldn't be more proud that it's Schererville and that it's Parks Department.
Thank you, Ed, and we'll pass that along as well. The character drive-by really was successful, and we had planned on using that as a template. And I suggested we move it to Rorman right before Easter, and we were looking at maybe doing something, say, that Thursday before Good Friday. And then when the decree came out, again, if we had 400 cars for an hour here at the community center, how many would we have in Rorman? And then you have to look at the resources and getting the police department involved, and for creating traffic jams. And once that decree came out, we thought it probably wouldn't be a good idea to do to expand it at Rorman Park. So and as it was, we put a lot of thought into the one we did at the community center, and we were fortunate to have the golf course parking lot because we really needed it. And as it was, actually, Officer Arvanitis came out and directed traffic on the corner because there were so many cars coming at one time. So it was a good event.
John, I have one more
Brad,
question.
you having trouble hearing, Brad? No. Go on, Ed.
John,
yeah, guys, I'm having technical difficulties over here. There we go.
I had another question for you, John. Our long-term renter at the community center is the church every Sunday. How are we dealing with them, and contractually, Alfredo, how do we deal with that, and are we dealing with that?
Well, I could respond first as far as, we have, they had paid for March. They had not paid for April. We don't really want them to pay for April. Obviously, they're not using that. So at this point, we still have the agreement with them. We just suspended them making a rental payment since they're not using the facility. And that's just probably the way we'll approach it until we get guidance from the state that, groups of 50 or more or 10 or more really could gather.
Okay.
Contractually, I'll let Alfredo comment on that.
I think that, the contract is what it is. It is for the duration of the year. If the town receives a payment, even though use is not in there, it'll be pursuant to the contract. But I think, the executive of gathering and social distance, the agreements to their patient not to pay, and it would be litigated. I know there's been issues in other communities with churches attempting to assemble and then getting a ticket or a violation of that order. But I don't think we've had that problem here or any request either. So I don't think it's a non-issue unless the board instructs.
Yeah, my concern wasn't trying to collect money. My concern was more them feeling feeling it necessary to make that payment, and I don't think that the contract compels them to make that payment. So I think we're all right.
Yeah, I agree. We want to keep having a good relationship with them. They've been a steady renter, and we really haven't had any major issues with that. So, and actually, with our other lease agreements, we were, or we do have a deadline coming up, I believe in May for soccer for rent, but obviously they haven't used it for the spring. So that's something that the board may have to take into consideration. And then with girls softball, we did not come to a final agreement on the lease. So that might be something again, with this, as this progresses, they may just be looking at doing a fall season. At the moment, I have not heard anything either way from the groups that they've canceled their spring seasons or that they're definitely going ahead with it. I think they're just trying to be optimistic and trying to get something going in May. And I've heard some other organizations in the region that might be looking at starting up in May, maybe for a month and a half. So we still have to wait and see what these groups want to do. And of course, if they are able to start up, I guess the question to the board would be, are you going to allow them to, participate in the park? That really depends on the guidelines again on what happens. But at this point, with current restrictions by CDC of 10 or more, I don't see how we're going to have any type of, sports activities in the park. If that goes, say, to a higher number, 50 or more, and that might be something to consider and what safeguards the leagues are going to put in to make sure there isn't a large group, beyond a certain number in the park. But right now, this is all just speculating because we're waiting for, further guidance on how this is going to play out.
Yeah, and I would just add, guys, that that the board, even if we hope they do, when that occurs, the board and the town has the authority works in their own manner outside of any CDC recommendations. If the board finds or the town finds in the best interest of the town to continue with the closure of parks or facilities or in that nature, they can. So that's something the board should think about. And Arvanitis is on the call as well. The town has jurisdiction of its own parks. So outside of any, once the restrictions are lifted, okay?
Sounds good. Well, if there aren't any other questions, why don't we jump forward to old business? The first item on the agenda for old business is the Rohrman tournament event, police versus fire game. I don't remember where we're at with this. I don't know about anyone else on the board, but John, if you could refresh my memory. It's been a long month.
I had Kristen put that on there. That was new business last month at the park board meeting that was tabled. So if it was going to be discussed, it would have to, a motion would have to be made to put that back on the agenda, but we still listed it on there. We had, Kristen also reached out to Officer Lopez. Kristen, did you get an update or any response from him? Because the minister had said he was going to report back at the next meeting.
Yeah, so I did email him and I did not get a response. So I just asked him like what he has as far as updates with where he was, and I did not get a response.
So that item could still be tabled.
I think he was planning for late September, I think is what the date was.
Yeah, that was
Correct.
my memory too.
Yeah.
Mr. President,
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to table this, this discussion unless anyone has further discussion on it for our next meeting.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kristen, would you call a roll for the vote, please?
Brad Bassick,
Aye.
Tom Malinowski,
Aye.
Ed Repay,
Aye.
Joe Skavark.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 4-0. Moving on to new, well, first of all, any other old business from the park board? Hearing none. Moving on to new business. First item on the agenda is to consider approval of change order number 3, 4, and 5 from INDOT for the Pennsy Trail Phase 2 and 3.
Yes, the three change orders, change order number 3 is for disposal of railroad ties. There was a large pile of ties that were left on the trail. That required some additional costs because of the nature of the material that couldn't be, it was kind of special waste. Change order number 4 was the elimination of the reinforced block retaining wall by the town hall. I believe the board's familiar with that because we had looked at that last year. And change order number 5 is some cost overruns. There was some additional asphalt buried in sections along the trail that was found when they were starting to do some plantings. So they had to remove that and put topsoil. And, you know, basically there was just a lot of balancing on these change orders and waiting for prices. And over the winter, the consultant was doing, you know, where we're at with the stone and all the costs on different items. And basically for the 3 change orders, 2 have credits and then the 1, there would be an increase. So overall, there's a net increase of $13,418.56 to the project. I should also add that we will be receiving additional funding to cover this cost at 80%. Actually, we requested at the last quarterly meeting through NERC for some additional change order funds in the amount of $25,000, $20,000 being federal and $5,000 being our share, just to cover things like this as we head into the end of the project. So that's what the 3 change orders are for.
Sounds good. Any questions or discussion?
For Alfredo, can there be a motion to approve all 3 under one motion?
Yeah, they can be.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the change orders number 2, 3, and 4 from IDOT for the Pennsy Trail Phase 2 and 3 for a total of $13,418.56.
That 3, 4, 5 on the floor?
3, 4, 5. I'm sorry. Yep.
It's okay.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Kristen, would you please call a roll for the vote?
Brad Bassick,
Aye.
Tom Malinowski,
Aye.
Ed Repay,
Aye.
Joe Skavark.
Aye.
All right. The ayes have it. Motion passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda is to consider approval of amendment number 1 to the INDOT/LPA contract for the Pennsy Trail.
Yeah, our current agreement with INDOT expires the end of June. So basically, this is extending the term of the agreement. You received a copy of it. There's 2 different terms listed. One is extending this July 1st through June 30th of 2021. And then there's also another section D from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2023. So we had to get the contract extended. There will probably be, if all the work's even completed, there's still going to be some follow-up work and payments that are going to have to be made after the June 30th date of this year. And as a reminder, the fiscal year for our project expires June 30th, so we would be getting into another fiscal year as well. So we have to make sure we have contractually the ability to, our contract extends into next fiscal year, so we could use those funds.
Any questions from the board?
John, amendment number 1 is an extension to June 30th of 2021.
Correct.
All right.
All right, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the IDOT LPA contract for the Pennsy Trail.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kristen, would you please call the roll for a vote?
Brad Bassick,
Aye.
Tom Malinowski,
Aye.
Ed Repay,
Aye.
Joe Skavark.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 4-0. Any other new business from the park board?
Regarding the contract, I will need signatures from Brad and Ed on the contract, and we'll have that ready for you at the community center. If you could just let myself or Kristen know when you'll be stopping by, and then Kristen will also have the minutes for Ed to sign that were approved. So
That's great.
I need to get this agreement back to NDOT, an actual signed hard copy. I need to put in the mail. They need to receive it by the end of the month.
Okay.
So,
I can probably run over there today, John.
I can be there today if it's ready.
okay. It is.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, I'll talk to you offline. All right, if there's no other new business from the board, we can discuss our next meeting, and then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I would assume we're still going to be thinking about an order for social distancing, so we'll probably end up with another video meeting.
I'd expect so.
We were doing Wednesdays the 6th.
Yeah, we're looking at May 6th. Yeah. What time do we want to do? Is this work doing it during the day like this, or?
I'm okay with it. I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
I guess not like we have anything else to do,
I
right?
know everybody.
I just checked my schedule. I'm open.
Me too.
Yeah.
Perfect. Why don't we do 11, if it works for everybody, 11 on May 6th?
Okay, good for me.
Good.
Awesome.
And if the board feels there's a need to discuss anything prior as far as a study session, let Kristen and I know as well, and we could get with Dan to set this up. And again, I'd like to thank Dan Jin with IT for assisting and setting this up for us.
Yeah, John, I think as far as the study session goes, I think as things progress here, whether they're good or bad, I think you need to let us know if they're starting to cancel things that, you need input on or whatever. So I think that's probably the best thing to do on a study session.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, especially once we're getting into like just making a decision about the fest. I feel like it would be a good idea for us to at least all talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bigger thing, and I'd like to discuss our options if that's okay with everyone.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, very good. Then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kristen, would you please call the roll for a vote?
Brad Bassick,
Aye.
Tom Malinowski,
Aye.
Ed Repay,
Aye.
Joe Skavark.
All right, vote passes 4-0. Meeting is adjourned.
All right, everyone stay healthy,
All right.
stay happy.
Yes,
You too.
Stay healthy, guys. Be safe.
stay busy.